Samantha, and everybody, welcome. Glad to have you here. If you participated in the first day of this planning meeting, you saw that we went over introduction of the center vision, and the PI expertise, and we gave a kind of a whirlwind tour of some of the projects that we are envisioning for the center. So the plan, and also yesterday during the networking session and tea time, those of you participated, that was wonderful. I personally really enjoyed it. I thought that it was very insightful, and for me as a part of the center, I thought that was going to help us set the stage for a lot of the work and a lot of the vision that we can develop for the center. So I hope we can continue along those lines. Your feedback today is essential. That's what we are primarily looking for today. And that's how the agenda is set up for the day. So what we'll do is, just because people are still joining, so we're going to, I don't know, Samantha, were you planning to play the video again, or are we?
Yes, I was.
Okay,
so I can go ahead and start the video while we wait
do that
for
while we wait for a few other people to join. And then, yeah, we'll talk about the agenda for the day after that.
Okay. Please hold for just a moment while I get the video started.
Soil is the foundation of our world and our lives. It is vital to Earth's ecosystems and as diverse as the plants and animals that inhabit it. It is the source of our food and the cornerstone of our cities. Soil is central to our lives. The Center for Soil Dynamics Technologies, a proposed industry-university collaborative research center, comprises a diverse team of experts across a range of engineering disciplines, such as electrical, environmental, computer, agricultural, and chemical engineering. University partners include the University of Southern California, the University of Washington, Iowa State University, and the University of Connecticut. Team members have expertise in remote and in-situ sensing technology, soil health and monitoring, dynamic modeling, machine learning, and much more.
Our center supports critical industries by informing precision agriculture, enabling climate change adaptation, facilitating security and defense logistics, improving habitat construction and restoration results, supporting waste and water management, and mitigating impacts of natural resource extraction. All of this through research and engineering of environmental and agricultural systems.
We research chemical and compositional properties of soil, like salinity, fertilizers, and microorganisms.
We make flexible, long-lasting, and low-cost sensor technologies using both in situ and remote sensing techniques.
We are developing low-cost, easily deployable soil sensors that can be used for comprehensive soil monitoring and smart irrigation applications.
With these complementary research areas, we can provide valuable information to various industries that revolve around soils and environmental management. We can help lay the groundwork necessary to improve soil health, to establish more efficient agricultural practices, and to reduce soil and water contamination.
Whether it's monitoring a small farm or an entire region, our research and monitoring technologies are of providing valuable insights into the functioning of complex and dynamic ecosystems.
With the combined effort of academic researchers and industry leaders, we can increase efficiency and profit while working towards a more sustainable future.
By joining the Center for Soil Dynamics Technologies, your company will have access to some of the best and brightest students, prepare to lead the next generation workforce.
You will gain access to a global network of visionary companies and researchers, and you will have the opportunity to shape cutting-edge research and to commercialize novel technologies.
By investing in SoilTech today, you will decide where we go tomorrow.
The proposed research of the Center for Soil Dynamics Technologies will contribute to producing greater results from fewer resources. Our work will enable novel advances in agricultural and business practices. It will accelerate our society's transition to a sustainable future. Our research will be the foundation of healthier, more sustainable ecosystems. This is the next generation of soil technology. Together, we can unearth the possibilities.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I see my video seems to not be working. Sorry about that. I'll go straight into our next presentation, though, which I believe will be led by our center director, Massimo Gadam.
Thanks,
So Mata, if you want to please reintroduce yourself while I'm getting that.
Sure. If you don't mind also going back to the agenda
Absolutely.
before, so I can just say a few words about that. That would be great.
Okay.
Thanks. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so here's what's going to happen today. We have about 3 hours of programming planned. So the next 20 or so minutes, we will take some time to recap some of the technical work that we discussed on Monday. And hopefully that would be a reminder or kind of a would set the stage for the industry feedback session that would start top of the hour. So to conduct that session, what we plan to do is that after you hear the recap, then we'll have a poll to see. We have 4 areas of technical thrust defined, and we'll see what the interest is in each one of them. And based on that interest, which we will get from, then we'll break out into groups. If it turns out that it doesn't make sense to break out into groups, that's fine. We'll just all stay in the same big room. If not, we'll see where the interests are, and then we'll divide up accordingly. We'll have a short break, and then after that, we come back, and so our industry partners won't see us at that point for about 45 minutes. That's when our colleague Noel Ellis from Raytheon, hi Noel, I saw you're on. So Noel will be leading that industry closed session. So all of you, our potential partners, will be discussing the projects, and you'll go through a mock voting session, and Noel will explain how that is going to get done. And then we'll come back, we'll have some discussion and response to your feedback that we have received, and we will adjourn the day after that. All along, please keep in mind, our main goal here is to get feedback from you. So at any point, whatever mechanism that works best for you, please don't hold back. Up and let us know what's on your mind. So any questions about the agenda? If not, yeah, let's...
I should also add, if people feel comfortable, we would really appreciate knowing a little bit about who you are. So if you want to rename yourself such that your company and your position is part of your name in the Zoom screen, that would be great.
Great. And also, I forgot to mention that that's between now and top of the hour, Payman also is going to have a short reminder of the CRC setup and program. It's very makeup of the program. So actually, Payman, maybe you should go ahead and do that now. Go for it.
Sure. Okay. So we talked about this briefly yesterday, but basically the NSF-IUCRC consortium model is meant to facilitate long-term, long-lasting interaction and collaboration between industry, university, and even government. Membership in the center is at an annual membership fee of about $50,000. The center is specifically run by an industry advisory board composed of representatives from each member company. And on an annual basis, the IAB is the entity that determines which projects are going to be funded. So the faculty in these member schools, in collaboration with member companies, write proposals to the center. The IAB looks at the incoming pool of proposals and then selects a number of them and then funds them, typically at the level required for 1 year and sort of a pre-competitive research effort, maybe about 50, 75, 100K or so. And at the end of that year, whatever results come out, it's essentially made available to the members of the IUCRC via a NERF license, so a non-exclusive royalty-free license for all of the center members, at which point any of the companies can take that IP in-house and further develop it with or without the faculty member who was involved in the project. And to facilitate, these potentially IP issues, there's a publication delay policy of 90 days. I should just mention quickly that this is the IUCRC model is a tested, tried, and proven model for NSF. NSF has run this program since 1979, and they have supported over 170 centers nationwide. And currently there are some 80 active centers, and they work on anything from research on tires to geohazards to microelectronics and UAVs. So it's a very broad spectrum. It's meant to significantly enhance US economic competitiveness, and it's been a resounding success for the foundation. That's a quick intro to the center.
Thanks, Peyman. Any questions, any comments, questions so far on the makeup of the center? You will have a much more extended chance to discuss all of this with our NSF program directors.
Would you mind
session?
Would you mind reviewing where you are in the application process and what's still ahead of you to complete?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we are at the planning stage. We sent a proposal. Well, we started with responding just to I believe, I don't know if it was a Dear Colleague letter or some initial white paper we sent. More than 2 years ago, we were invited to write a planning grant proposal. So we sent the planning grant. The planning grant was funded. That was, I believe, I mean, the pandemic year has has been a blur, but the planning grant was funded the year before that. And so we started planning activities, things. We were hoping to have an in-person planning meeting. So what's happening now on Zoom really should have been in person, as it has been done for decades. So this is kind of charting new ground here. But in any case, yeah, we are at the stage where after the workshop, assuming enough interest from industry partners so that we have enough commitments, then we will be writing the full proposal for the center. Our next opportunity to submit the proposal is June 9th, I believe, or June 6th. And we're really hoping, we are prepared to write the proposal. It's a matter of making sure that we have sufficient industry partners that are ready to support us at this point. And if we need more time, then the next deadline for our proposal submission is December. But we're definitely hoping that we could have everything in place for a June submission.
Marta, I think it would be good to mention when the center would become viable then, if you submit in June. I think
right.
It's fiscal year, right?
Right. So the earliest that definitely would be sometime in 2022, fiscal year for sure, 2022. But even calendar year, I imagine, would be the June submission. 6 months after that, we're looking at the start in early 2022.
So, Marta, this is Jim. A quick question. When do you guys get a sort of straw man idea of whether you have sufficient 12 industry partners? Like, is that at the end of today? Is that, I'm just kind of curious, because that's going to gate your full project proposal creation.
Absolutely, yes. Our goal is to have that knowledge by the end of today. There are some industry partners who couldn't participate this week, so no, there are others who we are still hoping to sign up. But you're right that today really is key, and
Okay,
yeah.
I guess the question is, as Payam had mentioned yesterday, go out and hit the Rolodex for those folks. And I've started to do that. I'm kind of curious indications I should provide those people when they need to make decisions by for that
Soon.
letter of
Yes.
commitment. Yeah, okay.
Right. So June, basically, so that for writing the actual proposal, your feedback on the technical aspects today would be key, and we will be adjusting our project definitions based on that. So yes, writing the actual proposal on our side should not be an issue. It's really making sure that we have enough industry support. That's going to be the key. So yes, we would absolutely appreciate what you can do to bring in your your network and others that you know who might be interested in the center.
I think, as Martha mentioned, definitely a verbal commitment soon, and then a letter of commitment probably within 2 to 3 weeks to give us time to fold it into the June deadline proposal.
So from a planning perspective, we're looking at a written letter of commitment likely by June 1st. I mean, at the latest.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we have a question in the chat from Karthi of Clemson University. So this was about other universities joining the center.
Right.
So Mata, could you speak to that?
Yes, I have an answer, and I'm hoping Prakash, who's also online, or Crystal, can answer this as well. My understanding is that at the moment, the 4 universities currently who are involved would have to submit the proposal after the center is established. I think other universities then can join at that point, assuming that we could also bring in the requisite number of companies to support.
It's going to be easier for other schools to join after center establishment, because I believe that essentially you just need to bring in 3 corporate sponsors, which is the minimum NSF requires. And at that point, you'll be able to join.
Good afternoon. This is Prakash from NSF. I'm sorry for the background noise. There's some pile driving going on around my house, and so you might hear this thump constantly. So I will go mute as quickly as I can. Okay, so to that question, so the team, the 4 universities in this planning meeting, they need to achieve a minimum of 12 full membership commitments. And the language for the membership commitment is what I showed you yesterday, but it's also published in our funding announcement, and the team can provide you that template language. Now, if a university seeks to join the center right now, it is possible for another university to add to the center as a site addition right along with the rest of the phase 1 submissions. Now, for them to do that, I would expect that they would have showcased the university at this planning meeting, right? So that the industry participants have a clear idea of what the center team composition is. However, if this team submits and is successful in achieving the creation of a phase 1 center, as Payman mentioned, it is possible for other universities to join an existing center. We allow that, and again, if it goes from 4 to 5 universities, they have to have at that time at least 15 full members at the center. So that would be the additional 3 members. Now, of course, in the interest of risk management and dealing with the economic cycle, we encourage all teams to try to far exceed those NSF minimum levels, so that you have quorum at all times. So I hope that gives you a sense of clarity on what the potential path forward is.
Great, thank you. So, Yeah, so let me just do a quick recap of the projects, just so that we have the context for our discussions for the next hour. And I know this is kind of an eye chart. The idea here was to put what you saw over 2 hours on Monday in one chart. Again, the fine print isn't as important as kind of seeing how things fit in the context of the big project. So we had 16 projects that we highlighted. We have many more, but those are the ones that we chose to highlight on Monday. And they fell under these 4 categories. There were sensors, sensor networks, carbon accounting, and then what we call the integrator projects. And in each category, we have participation from all 4 of our partner universities. In different categories, a given university might be lead and there will be other participants. But again, here we have a good conglomerate of all universities participating. Under sensors, we had both in situ sensors and remote sensors. So we saw things like nitrogen sensors, battery-free sensors of all kinds, nutrient fate sensors, toxic contaminant and graphene biosensors. And then on the remote sensing devices, we had radars, and in particular software-defined radars, UAV-based radar swarms. So this would kind of falls in the network category, but it's, in terms of development of the sensors, it falls under the sensor category, and then autonomous seismic sensors as well. And you see, I put the names of the universities under or in front of each one. Those would be the university that would be leading each of those developments. And then under sensor networks, we had several projects that had to do with low power or power aware, power efficient networks, different networking protocols that feeds both the sensor industry and also the communications and heterogeneous data type communication industries. So while we are obviously focused on soils, from the perspective of your company, some of the technology or some of the research that we engage in here might definitely be synergistic with other industries as well. But obviously, we will be focusing on soil here. Then we had the carbon accounting projects, and those had also sensor development. So there was some element of the first column under sensors definitely feeds into carbon accounting, because we use those sensors to quantify soil carbon, whether it's at the in situ scale or at the synoptics and remote sensing type scale, and also a lot of algorithms that go along with that, and also as you see in the first bullet, the carbon accounting standardization, because I think that's a nascent or emerging area, and there's a lot of quantification and definitions that need to be made still. And then the last column would be under integrators, and that's when we bring a lot of the preceding 3 things together. And that's when a lot of our data analytics come into the picture. Artificial intelligence and machine learning or deep learning methods are key here when we combine sensor data at different scales to produce a large scale, kind of a big vision type products. And these would be the type of products that could lead into making prescriptions or decision support for the end users. So what I have here, for example, is soil data analytics using geospatial techniques and deep learning, a network of soil sensors for precision agriculture, and so forth. So again, just think of these 4 areas as the thrusts that we engage in. So in this chart, this is just an example of an integrator project. That's when we could bring in inputs from the first 3 thrusts into some ultimate decision support system. So on the left-hand side, you see that, for example, if you're developing various sensors, whether they're in situ sensors or remote sensors, we deploy them in the field. And by the way, the pictures that you're seeing, let me just give you a little bit of a context here. I know that the animation in that middle right, it probably is the one that captures the eyes first. So what you see there is a time series soil moisture map at 30 meters over an area of tens of kilometers. So the size of that swatch is 30 or 40 kilometers, but the resolution of this map is 30 meters, very high resolution. The area here is an example. It's in the Walnut Gulch water in Arizona, and this is during the monsoon season. So you see that the color scale here, think of blue as wet and red as dry. It's Arizona, just outside of Tucson, right? In the monsoon season, it's wet. There's very little actual data available. There are various sensors deployed in this area. It's a long-term study site, so there's some in situ sensors, but nothing at the scale that you're seeing in this map. You see, if you can see the little dates that go by whenever you see a new image loaded, that's a different day. That's soil moisture that you're looking at. So it goes from very dry to wet, and it oscillates quite a bit. So, and this map has been generated using a machine learning method, excuse me, and a lot of data that have gone into the system. So now I'll go back to the first column here. So we have sensors that are deployed. So all the dots you see in the background, yeah, right here. So the little cross points, those are in situ sensors that have been deployed. The background is an National Land Cover Database land cover map. We bring in various satellite imagery, for example, precipitation, temperature, and so forth. So that's all the sensor data. The next column, which is geospatial analysis, we bring in other geospatial data layers, for example, elevation data set. So this would be things like not just the elevation, but the slopes and aspects in this area. Then we have water flow and flow accumulation that goes in. So some hydrologic modeling goes in here. And then we have the soils maps, the clay, sand, silt, which may or may not be available data sets. In this case, of course, from the Surgo database, we know that it exists. We have it. So we bring it in, and then the sensor data, the in situ sensor data, which are available at very fine timescales, are fed into this machine learning scheme, and that gives us this animation, this time series of soil moisture. This is just an example. It only shows soil moisture, but we could do exactly the same things with other variables or parameters. We could do this with soil carbon. We could do it with, if it's a crop field, we could do it with vegetation. So we could show crop growth at these scales. We could do soil nutrients, you name it. It's basically whatever our sensor data. So on this left column, whatever the sensor data give us, we could upscale and turn that into time series and larger scale data sets. So again, that's just to give an idea what we mean by the integrator project. And this is how our different universities can join forces. And each of us have different expertise, and we can all contribute to different pieces of this puzzle. And ultimately, a map like this could be used for decision support, whether it's for irrigation scheduling, whether it's for carbon accounting, or any other application that you're interested in. So hopefully, within your industry, you see how we can help and how your goals and your strategic vision in your company can fit or benefit from what we do. And again, we are looking to hear from you where it is that we could help you the most and how we can change or optimize this picture. So with that, I'm going to stop.
Yeah, I can actually take over here, Mata, and thank you for the description of the project. I'm going to return to our previous slide of proposed projects and ask that people participate in a poll, which is going to be displayed on screen. And this poll is for us to gauge interest in the different thrust areas. So I'm displaying the poll now, and you can select the the project area that's of most interest to you. That'll be the basis for the next section of this discussion, which is going to be the feedback session. So we'll have these 4 different rooms available, and they'll be assigned based on your interests, as I mentioned before. So I'll give just 3 minutes probably to fill this out and start assigning people to rooms. And if anyone has any questions at this point, I think we can also accommodate some Q&A.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have from us. I think we can maybe close the poll after 2 minutes.
Sure, yeah, I'll leave it up then for about 30 more seconds here and allow people a few moments to vote on their area of interest. If you're not assigned or if you haven't voted yet, I'll let you choose which room you'd like to be a part of.
Samantha, this is Noel. Should the poll be
Yes.
available and viewable to everyone? I am not seeing the poll pop up.
Oh,
that is
Noel, as a participant, if you go down to the bottom and you see the polling link, if you click on it, it should pop up for you.
Yeah, I don't have a polling link.
Oh, that's interesting.
You may not have the latest version of Zoom. It's possible.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Noel.
All right, I can raise my hand and attach emojis. I can't.
Can you describe an emoji, which room you'd like to be a part of?
The integrator tasks, if I can.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
that'd be great.
Yeah, and actually, I think when Samantha displays the results of the poll, then no. Yes, we can see. Okay.
Okay, I'll go ahead and end the poll right now, and that should allow me to see responses. So I'll share these results. Oh, you know what I'm not seeing is, oh, never mind. Sorry about that. If you all will give me just a second to start assigning people to rooms, that would be great.
Okay, so we see the polling results. So let's see for should we still do 4, or can we maybe combine the?
You're welcome to put me in the sensor network. I was in the carbon accounting. I'm sorry, this is Elizabeth Pierce with SimSoil.
Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So sorry, just a second while I actually have to download the results to see who voted on what. So if Mate, you could lead the discussion for just 1 second while I organize.
Yeah, sure. Or we can ask people actually.
Sure.
So let's see for the, we can start from the sensors. So the breakout rooms, maybe those who were interested in the sensors area. And Elizabeth, were you suggesting to combine carbon?
Well, I had a hard time deciding between carbon accounting and the sensor networks. So given that it looks like only 2 people signed up for carbon accounting, please put me in sensor networks.
Okay, sounds good.
It's sort of a similar theme to we had in the networking event. Picking one is, there's a couple here that are of interest.
Right.
Forced to pick one.
Should we do all together, maybe?
Well, we could all just talk, and that's why we created that integrator category. How about this? How about we do 2 breakouts? We do the integrator projects, and then sensors and sensor networks would be a separate breakout. And just in case, there are folks who mostly want to focus on the sensors and sensor networks, then that can be
Yeah, I
one,
think
and
that's a
then
good
the
idea.
integrators.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So just, okay, 2 breakouts, and then you could go back and forth between them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm creating one room for sensors and sensor networks, and then another for integrator projects.
Right, and carbon accounting would fall under, either one.
Sure. Okay, so I have just created those, and participants should have the option of joining whichever room they want. Please let me know if you're not able to see those breakout rooms. Is over, and then we'll start the mock voting. So I can happily reshare my screen just to explain the agenda.
Right.
Do that right now.
And Crystal, please let us know if we're doing this right, or if there's something else that we should be doing at this point.
Yeah, I do think, I think that's right, Samantha. I think just really making sure they understand kind of what's up next and kind of what the expectation is will be helpful.
That's great. I will.
And you said Noel is going to facilitate that session. Is that the?
That's the plan. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So can everyone see the agenda screen right now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So I'll just go ahead and send a message to the other meeting room that we'll be wrapping up here.
And Mato or Samantha, it may be worthwhile again, this kind of mock voting is always a little odd for folks. It's an odd process, and maybe just reinforcing for them the point of that isn't, we're not deciding on projects. What they're trying to do is give you direction. And so, anything you can do to help maybe them sort of see that that's the point of this, and that, it's not going to be, perfect or whatever, but it's really about, it may not be any of these projects, quite frankly, that come forward in your proposal, right? It's more directional than it is absolute.
Great point. Yes.
And yeah, I think we can make that point in our closing remarks, which we have scheduled for just after the response time. But yeah, I think that's good to highlight. So I'll just make sure that's in our slides.
And yeah, I guess I'm just saying, Samantha, I think you may want to give that to them before they vote, right?
Oh, okay.
So Crystal, are you and or Prakash going to be in the mock voting session?
I think that we are. I've never been on this side of the side. I've always been the one who's been kicked out of a voting session before. So,
so because I mean, if you are going to be there, I think that's a great. You
can also help.
It's good because you can make that point clearly to them.
Yeah.
So Samantha, I know we have. Is Samantha here, or did she leave?
Yeah, she's here.
I'm here.
So the idea was that, without us in the breakout room, the industry folks would discuss things among themselves and kind of do a report back. And since break begins at 11, can we have them come back now and do a 5-minute report back on other stuff that they talked about?
Oh, sure. I had just said that we would close the breakout rooms in at 11, but we do have that brief break period. So
actually, on that point, I don't know how the deliberations went in the other room, but what we had was we had 2 industry partners present there, but we got pretty good feedback from them. So I'd be happy to summarize what they told us. When
yeah,
we
same here. I mean,
so we don't need them to say.
I mean, Prakash asked us to leave so that they would discuss other things.
Oh, I see what you mean. So from their private session, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can broadcast. I don't have as many options as I thought I had. So basically, I can broadcast one message to everyone. So do you want me to just ask to?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, let's get everybody back.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I'm closing the breakout rooms now.
Are you forcing them back in here?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have the number of options that I thought I had. So I wasn't able to join a breakout room myself, so I couldn't see how they were going. So I just used my other computer to join. But yeah.
Well, looks like the breakout room is still there.
I think it says they'll close in about 30 seconds. I think they give everyone a minute warning before they just kick them out totally. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's like something just happened to the rooms.
Okay. Yeah, I think everyone has
back.
returned. Yeah. So, Pamela, did you want to kind of lead the discussion about
So
having some final thoughts?
since we don't have a lot of time, I'll be really quick. The notes I took in some important research areas and topics that were brought up was on the user interface with the customer, how easy that it should be very easy to understand that essentially the decision or decision aid has to be delivered, not the super technical details. Another question and idea that was brought up was calibration of the sensors, the fact that the sensors need to be low cost, optimization of sensor placement, number of sensors, as well as locations of the sensors. In the communication protocol side, focusing on the backhaul and the fact that all of these need a wired network and a broadband, and how it is extremely costly for the four major mobile carriers to actually carry bits back to the internet. The idea that, with 5G coming up, machine-to-machine communications, autonomous farming will need significant bandwidth requirements as well, and that's another area to potentially look at, as well as joint optimization of the communication protocols with power efficiency, sensor placement, and sensor optimization. Then the idea of looking at these in very large 10,000 acre farms was brought up, that the sensors need to be disposable, biodegradable, easy to install, and very low cost. They should not interfere with field operations. They should be virtually maintenance free. And then finally, the discussion was on materials the sensors are made out of as well, goes back to the biodegradable side of things. And the fact that, and the question that was brought up, which we did not answer, was, are there regulatory policy side drivers on this? So I will leave it to, I think it was, I forget who was going to report back on our session. There we go. Yes, okay, please do.
So we talked about a few different topics. One is the emerging threat that's on the horizon, which involves regulatory requirements and this was specifically talking about agriculture, but there may be a day when we're required to do certain practices to measure and validate that we're complying with environmental requirements such as soil, carbon, nutrient flow, and so forth. And that we're going to need technology that will enable the farmer to measure and comply and prove of what they're doing. And the comment was also made that we really need to have short-term answers. The thought was that a number of these projects may be 5-10 years out before they're deployable. And yet there may be a need in a shorter time frame, such as less than 5 years, to get some of these up and running. We had quite a discussion about how do you validate these sensors, the data they're collecting, and to add credibility, because especially if there's either a payment tied to them or a regulatory requirement, it's going to be very important that the data coming from these are validated and credible. And the issue is also brought up about how do you handle confidential proprietary data when the data itself is coming from identifiable devices or identifiable GPS location. And so that's something we all need to think about. And really quite a focus on having enough basic research to be able to intelligently measure what it is we want to measure in terms of number of sensors that are going to be required per a given area, what those sensors are telling us, and tie it back to some basic science about, you know, whatever it is we're measuring, whether it's nutrients or carbon or whatever else. So I think that was the gist of it.
Excellent. I think, Mata, why did you?
Yeah, I'll say a couple of words. I know I'm eating into the break. So in our discussions in the integrator room, we talked about two different approaches to these projects. One was the category of plug and play. So for a large aerospace company, for example, that soil may not be their kind of a top line strategic vision area of the research and technology that's developed could feed direct to their other areas of. So it was just being mindful about what we do, at least a large portion of what we do, to have multiple purposes, so that we can definitely have soils as our as the centers, obviously, but also have these plug and play areas that can feed into multiple other industry interests. On the other hand, you know, there was another vision that was suggested for us to keep in mind, which is to be focused. So, David, what you brought up about, for example, sensors, vision, and quantification or adding credibility, that was brought up. So, how do we have sensors not only less expensive, affordable, and fast to produce, but also that we can quantify the uncertainties and attach some performance metric to the data and products that we produce. So that was also brought up in our area. So with that, maybe I should just stop here and let everybody take a little bit of a break. We come back at 15 minutes past the hour. I guess our industry partners come back, our NSF program directors and Max. So you will go into your closed session and mock voting. And I think the instructions will be, or just the plan will be given at the start of that session. And Samantha,
That's
you're making
right.
breakout rooms for that?
I have made the breakout rooms and assigned them, so I'll open them right before 11:15 when we return from our few minutes of break. And I just wanted to add, I believe Crystal had made a comment about the fact that the projects that we discussed today can change form in substantial ways prior to the actual funding of the center. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that. And Crystal, I'll ask if that was the heart of your comment before.
Sure. I think I was just saying as the industry folks are going into the voting session, again, this is really directed at directional feedback. These may be exemplar projects. The point is to really get a feel for the portfolio that would meet your. So I would think more about it directionally, perhaps, than I would think about it absolutely relating to individual projects.
Thank you. Okay, well, everyone have a few minutes of break and we'll restart just right before 11:15. See you soon. Thank you.
See you.
So thank you all for coming back. And I think that, let's see. Oh, yes, I see Noel has rejoined. I don't know if there's a protocol on this from NSF's perspective, but is there time to provide kind of a summary of the discussion, or is that appropriate at this point?
I'm happy to, if we have time.
I think that would, Noel, we would really appreciate that if you could do that, and because yeah.
And for all of those who are in the industry session, if I've missed something or you want to add something, feel free. I would, if Samantha, if it's possible, or Mata, whoever has control, there was a document that you showed this morning that had 4 pillars. It was something that we saw this morning only, did not see on Monday. Is there any way that you could share that again? Because I think it would help if we talk to that.
Sure, I can share that.
Right. So actually, we created that after the discussions of yesterday. We figured that might help frame some of the discussions.
Well,
you're referring to this slide, is that right?
I am, yeah. So I just shared, I put something in the chat to share with everybody. So what we did is, there's a lot of different ways to do this. So we had a brief conversation at the beginning with regard to what we were all looking for, and talked a little bit about the projects and sort of the mechanics of how we go about voting. We did a relatively simplistic, everyone had so many chips that they could put on projects, and we did a straw vote to see where we would fall. And what was really interesting is I put in the chat that the projects that received the most votes, you'll see in order, project 1.7, we were using that terminology. 1.7 received the highest number of votes, 2.5 was second. And then the first day votes, the projects 1.2, 1.3, 1.1, all of those received a fair number of votes. And in the conversation that followed, a number of us had come back to this that we saw earlier today, and it was really the sensor projects that were of the most interest to the members of industry in the session. All of the projects that we identified, whether it was intended to be presented in that order or not, but they were those first day early projects in the sensors, and those are the ones that really bubbled to the surface. One of the other comments that came back is that we felt that this particular mapping of the four areas was really probably the best way to architect the way we want to look at the sensor. Sensor technologies right now are of the most interest. I think it was Brent that said something, or no, it wasn't Brent, it was Mike. It made a comment that the sensors available on the market today just don't do a lot, and so the most immediate need is potentially in pursuing these sensors, but with the ability to then expand that into some of these integrating projects at some point in the future. I don't know, any I don't want to speak on behalf of everyone, although I guess that's what I'm doing. So Jim or Brent or Mike or Elizabeth, anybody that's on the call had any other comments that you'd like to add to that? And Mata, does that help? I guess.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll just quickly build on what Noel was saying. I think this view that we're looking at here should be the center's mission, right? I mean, I think it does a nice job categorizing it. And so, I mean, hats off to everybody who presented it. This has been an interesting process for me, but I think it's sort of the multi-year concept of all these pieces have to come together. And from my perspective, you know, we definitely were heavy weighted on the sensor side, and then the integrator side, right, is because they all have to come together. So, so nice job to everyone.
Yeah, and I think looking at this, you know, building a roadmap, you just Jim just mentioned, you know, multi-years, right? Building a roadmap, maybe using this as an architecture to build a roadmap for the multi-years of the center. So, you know, the sensor work provides a foundation for some of the work that's going to follow. One of the concerns that I had early on was when I'd seen the projects on Monday, there were projects that I was interested in and others less so, but the project that I was interested in was reliant on these other projects, right? And so it was, how do I get to where I really want to be if I'm not so interested in here in these other projects? And how does, you know, if I were to vote, I wouldn't vote on those projects. How does that all work? And this architecture might actually, you know, help us see how that works. We're, you know, this is the architecture where we build on the sensor, we start with the sensors and then integrate and build forward. Just an idea.
Great. This is extremely helpful feedback. And I should say that, you know, we have to thank all of you for the discussions of the past 2 days that kind of helped us come up with this chart to regroup things and reorganize things, just to present it in a more useful and logical form for your purposes. So thank you for that. And I'm glad that, that you found it useful. I appreciate that. And of course, you know, just to reiterate what we said before, that these are placeholders. We do look to you for guiding us along which lines. I mean, if it's sensor development, what types of sensors, what properties of sensors. So we would be looking to you to help us define that vision as well. So while we were in the closed session, we were also trying to take other crosscuts of what you had told us in the previous sessions. So I can show you what I mean. It's nothing new compared to what you're seeing in this 4-block diagram, but just to add just a little more detail to it, if I can share my screen. And while I do that, I also, if any other comments there are that you would like to make from your session before I show you what we were discussing also, please go ahead.
So one quick comment from my end, and I apologize that I've missed large portions of this workshop, but what I've seen has been very valuable. Maybe you've talked about this, but I think another great component of this, the center could be, you know, building customer networks. So presumably, you know, sensors would be developed, networks would be sort of tested, and eventually would be testing them in literal field sites. We talk about field testing, and sometimes in my job, I'm in power plants, but this would be in a field. And it would be really interesting to, you know, get that direct customer feedback, start to build out customer networks. Something that jumped out at me yesterday was the idea of co-ops may be the integrators, the customer integrators between products. And, you know, you're not going to sell directly to a farmer per se, but to sell to a co-op that's going to help provide bundled analytical services type products. So it would be really interesting to kind of get buy-in from those parties as well, you know, connect with some co-ops, connect with some of the groups that are helping to manage farming on a higher scale, bird's eye view.
Great. And I quickly type that into the chart I'm going to show you next. Thank you for that, Mike. Okay, so let me do this and tell me if this captures some of the, sorry, it's another bulletized list, but here are some feedback points we got from more recent discussions, and also looking at the life forms that you have filled out. So in terms of development of sensors and sensor networks, the criteria or the attributes that we got from the discussions with you were we want inexpensive, fast to build, resilient with high longevity, easy to deploy, non-intrusive, low maintenance, and biodegradable. Of course, not every sensor can have all of these attributes, but these were what we gathered from what you told us. And please feel free to add, or we can later on, of course, for example, prioritize, and for different kinds of sensors, there could be different pieces of this that are relevant. Definitely we can discuss that. Types of sensors, so we would be interested in observing soil contaminants, nutrients, carbon, water content, and water stress. And if you could do these, all of the observations or some parts of them autonomously and in closed loop control fashion. So those were for sensors. And then other topics that came up were sensor data quality assessment, calibration, uncertainty quantification. So everything that has to do with the provenance and the credibility of the data goes in here. Also data security, geospatial methods. So if you have different kinds of sensors, how do we reconcile or harmonize the different data so that we could retrieve useful information from them? Another idea that had come up, or another desirement that had come up, was optimization of sensor placement. If we have a given budget for the number of sensors, where do we place them for optimum outcomes? And then there was a lot of issues with communication protocols. How, if we have sensor networks, how do we optimize it? How do we make sure the sensor network is power efficient and can broadcast the data in a low energy fashion, backhauls? That's an interesting area of research. And then regulatory compliance. And Mike, I put this, what you were just saying, services and co-op buy-in. So maybe that all goes to the human aspect or the policy and social aspect of what we are doing. We know that having the only what's needed, it's getting people to adopt it and buy in and to use it is totally, different beast. And so we have to make sure whatever we do is really along those lines. It's consistent with the human aspect. And then also very importantly, that we need to keep in mind that many of the things that we can and should be plug and play for other applications. Could be soil oriented, not in obvious ways, but in direct ways. So kind of flow into many other areas of technology. So sensor networks, for example, communication protocols, dealing with heterogeneous spatial data sets. Those are all areas of research that have many different applications. And also plug and play is one aspect, but also conversely, we have to make sure that we start from specific applications, in this case, soil and soil observations, and optimize sensor development analysis. Anything that I have missed, I'd be happy to just quickly add things and I can reformat. But anything does have missed here?
I might also add that representatives from our other participating universities could certainly make some comments here as well if they wanted to, because I know many of the projects that were discussed were developed by UW, ISU, and UConn as well. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is definitely all the sensor network sensors, all this have participation from all of us. And we'll make these charts available to you. So, if later on you look at it and realize that something should be here that isn't, we definitely appreciate hearing back from you. Let me go back to this mode. I would like to show this timeline. So of course we are doing the planning meeting now, which is definitely a prerequisite to building our proposal. And truly the feedback we have gotten the past 3 days has been fantastic. And I see why NSF is so adamant about holding this workshop, and I thank our program directors at NSF for this and for guiding us through the structure of this workshop. I think what we got in a matter of 3 days was probably as rich as what we had in the past several months. So this has been wonderful. And it will help us shape the proposal in a more effective way. So the proposal submission deadline, we already discussed that briefly. I think that was on Monday. So June 9th is the proposal deadline. We would need the letters of commitment from industry partners by the 1st of June. And NSF typically makes selections within 6 months, could be sooner, but it's within 6 months. So official start date that we're expecting is January of 2022. So especially for our industry partners who may have their fiscal years and calendar years aligned or not aligned, and in case there's planning that needs to be done budget-wise, this is the timeline that we're expecting for the center. And of course, thank you, and we appreciate your feedback. We will follow up with emails, so you'll have all of us our emails. Feel free to reach out to any one of us or all of us. Happy to be available for discussions as needed. So let me stop sharing my screen and come back here. So please, floor is open to any remaining comments and feedback here. So I think in terms of our technology directions or research directions, you've given us excellent feedback. We can work with that, and we will. I hope that you will allow us to be in touch with you in the process of proposal development, so that when we write projects, we could run them by you and make sure that what we're proposing captures your vision as well. So yeah, if you don't mind being contacted with minutia of different projects, we would really appreciate that.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of comments. So this letter of commitment has very specific language, which Marta can send you. And in addition to that, any company is free to describe the value propositions that they see in the proposed center as to why the National Science Foundation should be considering funding a center in the proposed topic area. So in many ways, as prospective, interested industry partners, there is a lot that you can bring to the table from the marketplace perspective to add to the value being perceived in a proposed center. And that is very helpful for NSF and the peer review community that we bring in to review proposals, because it helps inform them as to why industry is interested and what is the strategic value and why should they NSF be investing in this specific center in this specific topic area. So that please think about that. Also, it's not uncommon for companies to contact their partners in their supply chain, in their space, to bring on additional interested parties to support the center. So if you work with several other companies that are in your space that you partner with, they may be interested in what is being proposed, and they may be willing to explore, even if they didn't actually come to the meeting. So we've seen that happen from time to time. So there's a lot that all of you can do with your individual networks to ensure that you've all given it your best shake, and it still has to go through merit review. I mean, we really have a please be aware that we do decline proposals. So but it's critical to take this time, the 12 months that we've given this team funding for, to bring forth a really competitive proposal, and to use this planning time to bring the overall team, both the academic team, the institutional participation, as well as the industry participation in the proposal center. So hopefully you will have more discussions after this meeting, And I'm going to put the PIs on a spot. You're going to need some shiny objects to take back to your company, right? To talk to your colleagues. And they've got all that ready for you, right, Marta?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, we'll be in touch. And again, I hope our partners don't mind being contacted a lot in the next several weeks, and hopefully after that as well. So we're definitely looking forward to building long-lasting relationship. Help us as academics to make our research become more and more meaningful to industry. That's really the hope here.
And don't forget the students. Once a center is formed, you have access to a lot of talent, and potentially that talent could be your future science and engineering bench strength. So there's a lot of value propositions in a typical IUCRC. And I think some of you have already been in an IUCRC, so there's already some experience on the industry side of the fence to gain from. And you can always pick up the phone and talk to any center director of an active IUCRC, and they'll tell you a lot about the program and how it works for them. Also, NSF held a webinar series in 2018 and 19, where active IUCRCs presented public webinars. So you can, UIDP is the organization that held those webinars. There are about 10 webinars, and there might be more than 10 centers that presented. And those webinars also have feedback from their industry advisory board members who are seeing value creation. So if you're still in discovery mode about the model, about the program, there's a lot of community out there that can help you get some quick answers. So feel free to reach out and get that feedback.
Payman, looks like you were going to say something.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's a great idea that Prakash mentioned, reaching out to other center directors if you have questions, and getting their value proposition ideas for the work that they're doing. I think that's a great idea.
Great. Okay. Any final comments before we adjourn?
I think we should mention that. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just want to ask Crystal and Barbara if they have anything that they wanted to say.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, very, very well run. Good job, Samantha, Mata, and great job, Noel, in facilitating the industry session.
Yes, I definitely echo that. Thank you, Samantha, for helping us organize this. Speaking only for myself, herding the cats, but appreciate that, and all of our industry partners. Noel, thank you so much for running the mock voting session. Yeah, and our program directors, Prakash, Crystal, Barbara, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and your guidance has been amazing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you, Samantha. It's much harder to do in Zoom than in a physical meeting. So thank you.
Yeah. Very well run.
Thank you all. Yes,
thank
and thank you especially to Noel for joining us at this meeting kind of last minute and running an excellent session from what I hear. So I'll just say that we can certainly stick around. We are scheduled to end at 12:40 today. So I think we can all stick around for questions if anyone has more specific questions. But please look out for a follow-up email from these last few days of the planning meeting. And we are really excited to move forward with the proposal submission, and we'll be in touch and looking for some letters of commitment very soon. So thanks.
Yeah, and Prakash will probably reach out to you separately to schedule them if you have time, and Crystal and Barbara separate me, kind of cover the timeline and everything.
Yeah, if you have any questions about the funding opportunity or the policies or whatever, you can reach out and we'll be happy. Yeah.
Will do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Max is not here. Yeah, bye. Max is not here, is he? But we want to thank him too.
Righty. Yes, I didn't see him.
We will pass that along.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll definitely send him a note.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you,
thanks,
everyone. Mata, if
Brian.
I can have a few minutes back, I'm going to take a few minutes. So feel free to give me a call afterwards if you need. Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again.
Thank you,
Thank you,
all the
Noah.
industry members. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Nice job to everyone.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for
Mike.
coming. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yes, David, thank you so much.
Iowa State.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, my mugs finally
I did
came.
my
I got
schooling.
2
I have to
boxes.
say that. What's that?
I finally got the 2 giant boxes of the mugs and tea.
I got mine. Yes, I got mine last night, late in the evening. It was delivered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as the tea time was over.
Right. You know, I was going to also brag about my schooling in the Midwest. My undergrad was at KU in Lawrence, Kansas.
Oh.
And my graduate work was at Illinois, both,
Neighbors of Iowa.
in definitely the farming belt. So yeah. It's not just you Iowans,
That's true.
I did want to stick around for a minute. Just a couple quick questions. So, with the letter of support, this will probably be explained when I see the letter. But I noticed in the initial slides, there are opportunities to sort of support with grants, 30 to 50K, sort of industry buy-in. Would the letter of support be sort of signing up for that, or just saying, we're interested in this program? Because we have mechanisms to get grant from our corporate offices to fund this sort of collaboration, but there's no guarantee. So just kind of wondering what the level of commitment is.
So my impression from NSF was that they want a strong commitment. Now, if you in your letter, if you state that you're committed, but it's contingent upon your program office, your headquarters, basically approving this, that could be stated in the letter, I imagine. Now, Paymon has experience with previous ones. Is that reasonable, Paymon?
Yeah, I think essentially NSF wants basically a letter of financial commitment to that member, corporate membership, and this is required for us when we're submitting the full proposal. Now, whether this money comes in 30 days or 90 days, I don't think probably NSF is that picky about that.
Sure. Unfortunately, so as a research scientist, I may be a bit above my pay grade to sign off on that, but I will put it up the chain and certainly try to be an advocate on our end here. The other question is,
so let me read you off from the key part of the letter. Essentially, this language is critical. It says, should the center be selected by NSF for funding, company commits to joining at, for example, the full member at the membership level of, say, 50K on an annual basis, pending availability of funds and accepting NSF's required membership agreement. And then there should be a sort of a technical paragraph that justifies the value proposition, why NSF should support this center. But the key thing is, again, should we be accepted for funding, we will commit to joining, say, at the 50K, pending availability of funds. That sentence literally has to go in there.
Okay. Yeah. So Mike, I guess the answer is, the strongest commitment you can make. If you could say something like, hey, we've applied for $50,000 grant to do it, and then this paragraph comes in and says pending availability of funds. That's super. That's a big help for us, and it's accurate.
I think so.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that does leave a way out, just in case.
You've got more lawyers than NSF does, anyways.
Probably. The other question, I'm not sure they were on your radar, but I had mentioned that company Indigo Ag during the tea hour yesterday. I'm not sure if that was on anybody's radar or they had reached out, because it seems like a perfect fit for this. A former colleague of mine, when I was doing contract research through Nanoterra, had kind of jumped in, and now he's VP global head of carbon product technology at Indigo. So they were really plugged into looking at cutting edge sensor technologies, finding out how to provide service products for farmers and for larger customers. So if you haven't reached out, and I can maybe try to facilitate some communication, or you can kind of cold call them.
So they have received an email from us, because I remember that company name on the mailing list. But it's just like any other email that shows up from unknown persons with funny names, So, so if you can facilitate that, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'll certainly message my contact.
Hey, Payman, didn't they write a letter of support?
Indigo,
I think Indigo did.
For us, I don't think they did it for us.
Okay, we at least reached out to them, but yeah, that could be very helpful, Mike, because getting the right contact in the company is an art form also.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Mike, Mike, thank you. Very glad to see you again. And remember that 2 years ago, that's a group of thermal feature scientists, and meet with me and Yulei, and we had a very nice WebEx, right? I think about a company call. And then later on, that you said that you attend this workshop, and then you will re-evaluate this. So I really hope that we can keep this contact, and then the communication, and then we can schedule some other meetings, and for this for the
Yeah, it's really interesting because again, it's a good fit. We have a lot of similar environmental sensors for water and so soil, related customers.
Yeah, so I will send you the email later, and this we can follow up the communication.
Will do. All right. Well, thanks so much. I'll drop off, but thanks again, and best of luck. We'll be in touch. So
thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Okay.
Let's see. We haven't heard from you. Well, I haven't. What? I see Lyle.
Yeah. I think he may have stepped away, but I think we're just about at our time here.
That was great. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate all the great help, great work